Welcome to Data Cloud Now's Jed AI in LLMs Leadership Series. In today's episode, we're in Santa Clara exploring Gen AI in infrastructure simplicity. I'm now joined by Jed Dougherty, VP of Platform Strategy at Dataiku. Such a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you so much. It's great here to be here. Very happy.
Organizations are eager to unlock the productivity and efficiency gains Gen AI technology offers, but it's easier said than done. What are the key challenges to putting Gen AI into production and scaling it?
So I think you got three major kind of sticking points that people are running into right now. First, you have what I like to think of as governance, which can end up really being a lot of different things, but maintaining control over who's accessing what LLMs, how they're using them, what information they're passing into them, and what information they're getting out. So you have governance. Second big problem or big challenge that people are running up against is ensuring that the LLMs are customized to their needs. So this can be either something like RAG, retrievable augmented generation, or it could be something even farther like fine tuning. But they're finding that just a generic kind of out of the vanilla LLM often won't do exactly what's necessary. So understanding how to put your information from your organization into it is critical. So we have governance, we have your information, and then the last one is really about scaling. You can rely on third-party APIs, of course, and you can rely on them to scale. But if you want to go beyond that, if you want to do RAG, and if you want to do fine-tuning, and you want to make sure that maybe your data never leaves your organization, then you need to understand how to scale these things locally. And that's a very large challenge. You're not necessarily scaling the training anymore, but you're still scaling how many people are going to be able to access it. You're going to have a whole bunch of GPUs. You're going to have somebody who knows how to keep this stuff running. And those are all really big challenges. So I think, yeah, those three, big deals.
Looking forward to diving into this a little bit deeper. Traditional ML processing requirements led organizations to build separated and isolated infrastructures that needed to be managed and maintained. How can organizations prevent LLMs from creating silos again?
One of the big reasons you needed huge infrastructure for training traditional ML was that you actually had to train it, right? LLMs are this new problem, or kind of a new world, where you're no longer training the LLM. Maybe you're fine-tuning it, maybe you're throwing some documents into it, but the most expensive part has already been done for you, probably.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Unless you're, one of a couple organizations in the world, you are not training these things yourself, which is good because you don't want to spend $20 million a year on GPUs. That may change as the training capabilities become smaller and training needs to become more isolated. But right now, what you need to be focused on and what you need to be worried about is hosting them for inference or hosting them for managing the documentation that you're putting into them. And that hosting concept, it's much closer to a database than the concept of like running big ML on a single server or something like that. And so I think hosting data and then running inference or running LLM chatbots it's easier to keep the data closer to each other than the traditional ML structure. So if I need to pull my data out of a database, train it, and then put it back in with some model stored somewhere, right? So now that I can just treat a database as well as a vector store as like a place where all my data is being hosted, and then I can ask questions of that, it feels like it's going to be easier to hold it together. And I think that Snowflake is obviously working to ensure that that is going to be the case.
Gen AI and LLMs have very much opened the world of data to non-technical individuals. To be successful, is it all about the implementation of this technology, or is it also a talent question as well?
I think it's relatively, it's new days, right?
Right.
But yes, obviously there's an implementation question. Although what we've clearly seen is that normal people with zero implementation and zero technical knowledge can do an incredible amount of stuff just by logging into OpenAI, right? And using a completely generic tool. So certainly the bulk of the challenge here, I think, is not in implementation or even infrastructure right now. And it's not even in talent, because I don't know how much talent there needs to be. I don't think it's like, I need a PhD in writing prompts or something like that. But I do think it's an experience. and in organizations being able to identify where they should be using this and recognizing that they don't need to do years of planning before they start. The challenge here is identifying use cases that are going to be immediately impactful to organizations and not being afraid to start on them with maybe not everything in place yet. It's okay, because everybody else is doing it, so you might as well.
It's an exciting next chapter.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to the audience as they embark on their infrastructure simplicity journey?
I think you can think about four kind of, I don't know if this is going to be too technical, but four kind of steps as you're approaching any LLM problem, including with infrastructure. The very easiest thing you should work from easiest to hardest. The easiest thing you could possibly be doing is simply going out, access an API, and asking questions of that API, either in a batch way or an individual way, and seeing how good that does. There's literally nothing stopping anyone in any organization from doing that right now, which is sort of its own problem, right?
It's the low-hanging fruit.
It's the low-hanging fruit, and you can get pretty far with it. After that, you want to start thinking about doing better prompt engineering, have some type of way of structuring your prompts and comparing how well they're doing, maybe comparing across different LLMs to see which ones are helping you with like cheaper or better answers or things like that, being able to adjust your prompts as necessary. And you can get really far with that. And with those two things, you haven't had to do any kind of crazy inference, any kind of crazy training, any type of injection of documents. And there's a huge number of use cases that can be hit with those two. Then you have document injection, and then beyond that, you have fine tuning. And so I think organizations need to not be afraid to try out these first ones before they even necessarily have the last two in place, because you're going to get a long ways with these two. And then when these two are there through something like Snowflake, then absolutely you're going to be ready for them, and you're going to know what use cases require them.
I think we can both agree it's an exciting next chapter.
Incredibly, yes.
Thank you so much for joining me on Data Cloud Now. Always a pleasure having Dataiku on.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
And for the audience watching, I'm Ryan Green. I'll see you soon.